Welcome to For the Love of Books, That Didn't Happen in the Book, a podcast by Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, and welcome back to That Didn't Happen in the Book. Yep. So, this month we're doing a classic. So we'll see how that goes. A classic that I had never seen before.
I instigated this, let's be honest.
Which is an interesting development. And one that the book is quite different in a lot of ways, as we'll get into. I'll introduce my usual special guest, as always.
Hello, everyone.
It's Mr. Ciccone. He's I can't remember. I've run out of
You said, was that the Morecambe to your wise? Because I want to be the wise to the Morecambe.
No, you can't be. You're the funny man. So,
Bro,
you're the funny man, and I'm the boring straight man.
Oh, great.
I've
never been called that.
That's what I was going for.
That's not boring.
You're Eric Morecambe because he was always trying to do
as long as you didn't do
things.
Little and Large, I would have killed you.
We could.
No.
Cannon
and Ball.
Yeah, I liked Cannon and Ball.
They were very popular back in the 80s.
Very popular. He's making
I remember
a face,
Hale and Pace.
people. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hale and Pace were good.
Still about, but maybe not as a couple. Well, not a couple.
No.
They were never a couple.
North Council does not say that.
As a double act. And it's about doing stuff.
Isn't it funny how comedy changes?
One of them was in Family Affairs. Do you remember Family Affairs that was on Channel 5?
Oh my, I remember it now.
Yeah.
I'd blocked it out
One
my brain.
of them was a regular in Family Affairs, and the other one's been doing musical theatre.
I love that
So
Channel 5 had soap opera.
I know, and now they just have
Everyone else's soaps.
just things about people living in Yorkshire.
The Teacher.
Just, dreadful. These things, I'm not going to get there, right? But they're all the same.
Yes.
And they're saying, I read a thing yesterday when it's saying that there's no money in making short form drama because, the companies, networks and things, especially in America, but everywhere, they want things that they've got an IP that they can build on.
Yes.
Literally, their dramas are all 4 and 5 parters.
Yeah.
Usually with Jill Halfpenny in them.
Yes.
Right? With the same plot. They've got Jill Halfpenny or they've got Tanya of EastEnders.
But
It's the same plot.
This is the thing. Channel 5 are one of the only networks doing new dramas like that. You could say they're churning them out.
I can tell you, I watched first part of The Wives.
Oh, The Wives.
The Wives was this week with Tanya of EastEnders, Angela Griffin and Tamsin Outhwaite, and I watched first episode and I thought,
I'm in business.
What a load of tripe.
I could tell you that just by looking at the trailers, which are all the same. They all have the same music. They all have people who are playing. It's like Waterloo Road. The teenagers are about 30. I'm sure they are. Those hairlines are receding.
Terrible. But anyway, so we've just slagged off Channel 5's whole drama.
We're keeping this in the podcast, folks.
Yes.
I insist.
So, tell the people, the one listener, what we're going to be doing this month.
We are doing Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. And the reason I wanted to do this, when people talk about a book that's been turned into a film, and both are quite different but also similar, people don't really think of the book in this situation, I feel. Film has so eclipsed the book that a lot of people don't realise the source. A lot of people think Breakfast at Tiffany's is about a woman named Tiffany, when in fact it isn't.
So, my first question.
Yes.
Which I couldn't really understand based on the book, certainly. And I thought, Kirkland might know the answer to this question. Why is it called Breakfast at Tiffany?
So, in the film, it's a very aspirational thing, whereas in the book, it's mentioned maybe in one line of amazing dialogue.
Yes.
Every morning, Holly Golightly, the main character, played by Audrey Hepburn in the film, has breakfast at Tiffany's, which is this beautiful big, I'm not going to say department store, but it's a
jewellery.
Sells jewellery, and also you can get, she goes there, has her breakfast, and it's aspirational. She looks at this beautiful place as a symbol of where she wants to get in life.
Is that what it is? Because I couldn't quite follow it.
Deep Blue Something did a whole song based on it.
It's not clear in the book.
No.
Really. It's a bit clearer, I think, in the film because you actually see her standing outside the window shoving a pastry into her mouth.
But they rewrote the book from scratch in a sense to make it more aspirational. The book is quite not gloomy. It ends in a low beat note, whereas the film, as I say, is very aspirational and there's this beautiful bombastic love story. It's got that song in it. But yes, it starts off with Holly Golightly iconic in the Givenchy dress outside Tiffany's. You know, not I think we're alone now, Tiffany, but the actual place eating her.
You know,
But who knows?
remake.
Yes, and she's eating her pastry, and you know, I'm not Holly Golightly, even though I sort of find her such an iconic presence. But I've had my breakfast outside, you know, Forbidden Planet in Glasgow before. It's a kind of similar vibe.
I mean, it's 100% not similar vibe.
Standing outside looking at all those Marvel comics and Marvels with my Greg's egg sausage roll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, this is just like Holly Golightly.
Yes, I used to do that as well. I used to stand outside the Bloody Planet and look at the Captain Picard mugs and that were like £25 and eating a biscuit and say, this is just like breakfast at Tiffany's.
A biscuit, I'd be having the whole
Well, I can't
packet.
remember what I ate, but
So,
yeah.
listeners, just a little bit of a disclaimer here. I have a mug of tea. You can hear slurping sounds, that's what it is, but I like to think it's a cosy, calm sound.
So we'll give a bit of background, will we, to
Yes.
what's been going on in this chaotic place today.
Yes.
I was held up in miserable traffic this morning, which I'm not happy about because it's been going on for about a fortnight now.
You're on your way to Forbidden Planet.
I am
have a biscuit.
Very grumpy, to say the least. And then I came in and explained to the listeners what's happening here today.
Our bestie, Fiona, always sets up a coffee morning every few Fridays. No, that's not true. It's every few months.
Well, it feels like it.
Is it for Macmillan?
This one's for Macmillan.
And we all bake cakes. We all bring cakes and biscuits in. I have my iconic cherry loaf with nuts. However, I ran out of caster sugar last night, so I'm selling it to the public as diet
Right.
cherry loaf, low sugar cherry loaf.
So you're going to it's like
Why?
giving an alcoholic biscuit
Yes.
and pretending it's iron brew.
I'm just going to say this is very low fat, low, diet cake. So we're doing that. I am very excited to go out and partake in the cake. Andrew, not so much.
No. Now I like a cake.
Yes.
Right. And I'm very up for the charitable events. However,
you need to defrost.
No. But a coffee morning here becomes a 2-day event. It's not just a coffee morning. It's like we've got posters that are contradictory in terms because outside it says, come to our coffee morning, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but that's not a morning. And then this afternoon, Fiona will say, just leave the cakes and things. We'll put some out tomorrow morning as well.
Yes.
I went to the country festival. It's practically as long as that. Come on.
But this is the thing. What I love about it is I love the excitement. People go there, they sit, have tea, and they sit and Trisha, who's a member of staff, God bless her, Trisha is brilliant. She is in her element. She's like the hostess with the hostess. She's always serving tea. And she was like, this tea here, what is it? She says, is this funny tea? And I said, no, Trisha, it's Twinings. It's normal Twinings. Too much quality for the public to bear. We missed a trick. We should have recorded some of this live from the coffee morning and interviewed the public, because some of the people who are tuning in to listen to Breakfast at Tiffany's contemplations might also want to hear just the random staff at the coffee morning.
Well, yes, maybe. But
I might get my phone and record bits and we can incorporate it in.
It could be we could do a live broadcast at another point.
Yes! The next coffee morning next week.
He's not. He's only marginally joking. So it's a bit chaotic here, but we'll do our best.
Yes,
if we hear any clanking of cups in the background, then
we are here. This is very short but sweet, but to be out by 10 o'clock, so we're getting there. Breakfast at Tiffany's, by the way, is also available to take out here in Cumbernauld Old Library. I should know because I took it out a while ago.
I could not get it because well, there was no copies in where I was at the time.
Right, okay.
And
people still read it though.
So I did manage to track it down.
I want to compose a love letter to Truman Capote. He is dead. He is dead. One of my favourite books ever is not in Cold Blood. It's not Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's called Music for Chameleons. And it's a Truman Capote book. And I read it fairly recently and I loved it so much. I just love his writing. His writing feels so effortless. The dialogue sparkles. It's a cliche, but it sparkles. The book about Breakfast at Tiffany's, so we're going to talk about a quick difference between the film and the book. Yeah. So the film is very different, and that's before we get into Mickey Rooney. The film's very different. We have Holly Golightly, Lola Mae Barnes, that is Audrey Hepburn, who was cast against type. So the book, she's very brassy, she's blonde. Truman wanted Marilyn Monroe.
He did, yes.
And Marilyn Monroe might have done it, but they cast Audrey Hepburn, whose presence just changes the film completely. I mean, she's perfect. When I think of glamour, I think of Audrey Hepburn. And in the film, compared to the book, she's this uplifting presence. You know that no matter what happens, she's going to win, which I find really aspirational. I love that she makes the best of what she's got and wins. In the book, there's a sort of sadness about Holly Golightly. She's always looking for something, and you don't know if she's ever going to get it. The main protagonist, who's unnamed in the film, he's called Paul Varjak. I know who is going to play him. Did they want Steve McQueen to play him?
I think that sounds right, yeah.
And they ended up with
Hannibal off the 80s.
Yes, they ended up with Hannibal from the 80s.
Which sounds ridiculous because now that's what we know him for.
You watched the film. What did you think of him?
He was fine. No, he wasn't, like, I wouldn't have thought always that kind of,
Everyone hated him.
Really?
Apparently, he was hell to work with.
Oh, yeah.
His name in the film's Paul, and I think in the film he's supposed to be a gigolo. He's paid to give company to older women.
So it's quite interesting, like you said. So in the film he's called Paul. In the book he doesn't have a name.
In the book he's gay.
Well, it hinted at. Yeah.
Yes, and he's in love with Holly Golightly, but it's the kind of love that
Platonic.
Men have for Britney Spears.
The way we feel about each other.
Yes, he thinks she is fabulous.
Yes.
But he's not in love with her. He loves her, and by the end he knows he's never going to see her again. Whereas in the film, spoilers, say it for the audience louder. Spoilers.
Yeah.
They fall in love and they kiss and the music swells and it's beautiful. He is in love with her.
There's no love story between them in the.
No, it's so different.
And the whole thing, the subplot in the film about him having that affair with that woman.
Yes.
Behind her husband's back and everything.
Yes.
Darling, you come today, all that nonsense. It's just not in it.
And he's shouting at her, shouting at her, he's like, I love you. And she's like looking for the cat.
Yeah.
Where's my cat? She threw her cat into the street because she wants the cat to get on with life the way she's about to in Brazil. But the other thing I love about the film of Breakfast at Tiffany's compared to the book is set in the 50s, the film is set in the 60s, the tone will change.
This is the thing that you don't even always realise when you're reading it, and there's only a couple of references. The novel, the novella, whatever you want to call it, actually set in the 1940s.
Oh, really?
It's set.
50s, or was it published in the 50s?
It's set during the Second World War.
And that's why it feels
it doesn't
there's
feel
a desperation.
remotely like there's a war going on in the background. I think it's 1943 they mention, and by 1943 I'm sure America was in the war.
Yeah. And he's talking back to when he remembers Holly Golightly.
It's not as if you kind of feel like there's any great. It's as if they're just carrying on with these ridiculous things in their lives.
They're just having
moving
shenanigans.
Into the 60s does change that.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lightness to the film, and New York is the New York of your dreams. It's not like Real Housewives of New York, where these women, one of my favourite TV shows ever, it's the kind of New York you think about, that you fantasise about.
Great shot at the very beginning of the film where
it's like a tourist picture.
The taxi comes down the street to Tiffany's, and it's just like the whole street's deserted and there's no traffic and no anything.
That was Glasgow when I went to a sausage roll. It was deserted.
At no time of the day and night now in New York would that happen.
No.
Just not at all. It's like that bit in, what's the film with Cillian Murphy where everybody dies?
Oh, the zombie film.
The zombie
24
film.
hours later. Or
where he's walking around about Big Ben.
Yes.
And the streets are all deserted.
Yes.
I mean, it's just not, it would never happen.
No, unless, COVID, but connecting that and that. But Breakfast at Tiffany's, so when you think of it, you just see New York. The other thing I want to point out about the film, which you won't get from the book for obvious reasons, the direction is marvellous. So there's a sequence in the apartment and it's full of people and the camera, you know what I'm talking about? And the camera's following all these crazy people doing ridiculous things. It's just physical comedy at its peak. And Holly Golightly weaves around the whole party, just being fabulous. In reach, always out of reach. And I just love it. The part of the film that I feel was a bit strange, and yet I don't think the film could be without, is Moon River. She has a sequence where she's sitting, singing this beautiful, mournful song with her delicate voice, and he's listening to it and he's in love with her. That is the romance of the film. If you removed that song, the film could still work, but it wouldn't feel half as human, if that makes sense.
So I saw a not very good stage version of it a few years ago.
A musical?
No, not a musical, a play.
Right.
So it's been turned into a play twice.
Did they do the song?
They did do the song. I don't know if they did the song the first time. I don't know if I read that anywhere. So they turned it into a stage play for Broadway, and I don't think it was that well received. But
Right.
anyway, they brought it over to London, and it was Anna Friel played Holly.
Sort of, maybe. She could put. I think I could see her more as the Holly in the book, because the problem
that's
is.
what I was going to say.
Yes.
It's an adaptation of the book, not
Well,
an adaptation of the film.
I'm not sure that would work because people want to see the film and they want that song.
But there are elements. They do sing Moon River. Certainly in the second version of the play, which again is an adaptation of the book.
Oh, they were going to
There is a
cut the
bit.
song out of the film, and apparently Audrey said "over my dead body" because she knew how important that sequence was.
It's not the same. They didn't do the same adaptation again. Somebody else adapted it, and it was a different production.
Who played her?
Pixie Lott.
Oh,
Huh?
right, okay.
At least she can sing.
Oh yes, she can sing. I mean,
So
put Diana Vickers in instead. I could totally see Diana Vickers.
Pixie Lott only did the London run, so it was somebody else. The rest of the cast all did the tour, but she only did the London run. I can't remember. I think it was a Taunton. Cara Taunton or somebody like that played her.
That famous acting Ryan Stephen Taunton.
There's two of them.
So right, okay.
One of them played Warren's sister in Hollyoaks that died in a drug overdose.
Like I said, that very well-known acting dynasty, the Tauntons.
So we have a thing, my friend Vicky and I have a thing, which is whatever happened to the Panabakers. So there's like a couple of sisters. There's Kay Panabaker.
The Panabakers.
That's what I'm going to explain. There's Kay Panabaker and Danielle Panabaker.
Right.
And they were in a lot of like TV shows about, 10 years ago. And
British TV
no,
shows?
American.
With a name like Panabaker.
And then we would be sitting watching something, somebody would pop up randomly, and Vicky would go, "Is that a Panabaker?" And then we'd have to look it up. And out of the blue, about 3 weeks ago, she said to me, "Drew, what happened to the Panabakers? I don't see anymore." So I looked them up, and one of them turns out played like main character in The Flash for about 9 years. To which, when I explained that, Vicky said, "No, I don't care about that." So
I mean, who does?
So I feel like the Tauntons and the Panabakers are of that ilk that you go, which one of them is it?
But I get that vibe from the Agatha Christie Theatre Company. Every time they tour, and we have talked about this in previous episodes, every time they tour like a murder mystery, obviously we go and see it, we try and bring Claire, who's our other friend, along with us. And every time I see the cast, I'm always like, I've seen them in something.
Yeah, because you saw them in the last one.
Yes, I have seen them in other things like London's Burning or something. I've seen them in different things, and every now and then, like a Channel 5 TV show, like a drama, I'm like, I wonder if any of them have been in an Agatha Christie Theatre Company play.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of actors they get in. Good quality actors.
Also, the teacher last week.
Oh my.
Cara Taunton.
You are
It's all cyclical.
It's all
It's
connected.
all connected. Who knew?
Genius. So listen, we keep checking the clock because we're like, if we're not out by 10, our supervisor's going to run in and throw cake at us.
But like for 5 minutes, the 8 other staff that are here today can serve the cake. They did the second play, which I did see, and as I say, I think it was a Taunton. Jack Boswell from Bread. Do you remember Bread?
Oh my god! So I remember Bread. I know you love Bread. Yes. Bread.
Yes.
Is that Record Breakers?
What's that? Bread. We'll make it and we'll take it home. Bread.
So yes, I remember Bread.
Yes.
Now back in those days, television was watched by millions and millions and millions.
Like 20 million people watched Bread.
20 million. Lilo Lil. I remember the name.
Yes.
It was iconic. It's also, this is the thing I was talking to my dad about recently. I said to him, there's so much television I've forgotten. Every now and then, when I go down a YouTube algorithm rabbit hole and type in something like 20 TV shows you've forgotten about, I actually do remember seeing them, even if I didn't watch them.
Yes.
Halloween is coming up, and there was a horror host who presented films for years on BBC Two called Dr. Terror. I've watched Dr. Terror every year. I set my alarm by him, and I forgot all about him. Bread was one of those shows, you remember it, say UK Gold. There's so many TV shows that I didn't watch, but I still, when I hear the theme tune, I can't get over it.
Well, Jack Boswell out of Bread was in the stage version
Of Breakfast at Tiffany's. How glamorous.
But he was playing, and this is another change from because it was based on the book. He was playing the guy, the bartender guy,
Right.
who of course does not feature in the film in any way.
Who is Jack from Bread?
So he was the kind of heavy brother,
Right.
the dark hair.
I thought it was the granddad.
No. Jack was the kind of chubbier brother.
Yes, the big brother.
And
not chubby as in
and he went out of it after about 3 or 4 years. I think he went away to America or something, and they brought in Cousin Shifty to replace him.
His name is not Cousin Shifty.
Yes. Cousin Shifty was Trevor Jordash out of Brookside.
No,
Yes.
Cousin Shifty.
Cousin Shifty. And he then Jack came back after a couple of years. Obviously, the work wasn't there for him.
Oh.
And then, inbred, they all sat around the table in the kitchen. And when Jack came back, Cousin Shifty had to sit on the floor because Jack got his chair back.
Do you know my dad, when I see him, sometimes adopts this weird accent. It's supposed to be American, I think, but he says, "Let's have family meeting," which is meant to be sort of a British soap opera thing, because he thinks that in British soap operas, everyone constantly have family meetings around the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's bread.
It was, yeah.
That's
Remember
bread.
they used to put money in the chicken? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's terrible. I take it. It's that money in the chicken.
Plaster chicken in the middle of the floor.
A style sequence.
And they used to put the money in.
And they have the hands pulling the money out. The chicken.
And when they came for the dinner, they'd have to put in all the money that they got in their cons or whatever it was like. I have one of those pasta chickens on top of my fridge.
I can't imagine putting money in. My family would just take the money out constantly.
So the chicken belonged to my great aunt.
Yes.
And when she died, who I was very close to, and when she died, Mum was like, "Would you want anything in the pasties?" Go with the fan. And I said, I want a chair, because she's a lovely chair. And I want, we're not even there yet. And we had a special name for the pasta chicken. We called it the Chooky Hen.
What, the Chooky Hen?
I wanted my Aunt Chris's chair and the Chooky Hen.
Right.
And the Chooky Hen is now on top of my fridge.
No, I've never seen the Chooky Hen.
Well,
next time, when we're all at your house
full of
watching
junk,
TV.
old batteries and pencil sharpeners,
Lord.
like that. And yeah, so
there's no Chooky Hen in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
There's no Chooky Hen in Breakfast at Tiffany's. So Jack Boswell, back to the plot. Jack Boswell played the bartender in the stage play, but the bartender who frames the story really in the book of Breakfast at Tiffany's does not appear in the film in any way at all. So for anybody who has seen it but has not read it, the sort of framing story is that Holly and the unnamed narrator, because he's not called Paul in it, used to frequent a bar, and the bartender, landlord, whatever he might be, meets up with the narrator.
Yes.
And says that he's had a lead on what happened to Holly.
Yes, he's seen her.
So it's like set in the future, and then it goes back to tell you what happened to them.
Yeah,
and
how
then
she
it goes back to
disappeared.
that at the end. Now, I think what happens is, if I remember right, is it not? Is he seen a photo or something?
Yes,
somebody
like
had some kind of weird satanic doll.
Yeah.
That was carved out of wood that had Holly Golightly's face. Is that not what
Something
happens?
bizarre.
Something like that.
I mean,
and
the film
they
never
know that that's definitely her, and they know then that she ended up in Africa.
Yes,
possibly
with a prince or something.
And then it goes back and tells you the story of what happened at the time. And of course, then we've got the ending. We have something else to discuss about it, but we will talk about the ending first.
Yes.
So the end of the novel, Holly, in both the basic plot's the same, and there's the idea of she's going to go off to Brazil.
Yes, she's going somewhere
with
better.
Jose, who then doesn't want her because she gets arrested for going to see Sally Tomato in jail.
With the weather report.
Yes. So that's all in both of them. But where it diverges is that she decides she's going to go, and then when he dumps her, she decides she's going to go anyway. And she goes and she's got the cat. She decides to throw the cat out in the street.
Yes.
And let the cat go and find a new home.
Our free spirit,
its
this
own life.
becomes desperation.
And that's when it shifts.
Yes.
That up to that point, that's the same. But the way that they diverge is that in the book, she just basically gets rid of the cat, lets the cat go, gets on the plane, flies away. The narrator never sees it again.
Yes.
Ever. right? Never hears from her, never sees from her, but eventually sees the cat being looked after by a nice family.
Thank goodness.
The end. What a
Yes.
happy ending.
I just don't think the book.
It wouldn't have worked.
I know it wouldn't have worked. It's not his best book. I mean, I do enjoy it for what it is, but the film has supplanted it.
Obviously, in the film, she throws the cat out, then she realises a mistake, and she goes and finds the cat again.
And she
And then
reunites
her and old
Paul
Hannibal,
Varjak fall in love.
Yes, hug and embrace, and they're going to be a lovely
And
family.
that music
with
is
the
so
cat.
good. And it ends.
It's a much more optimistic ending.
Except it was on Channel 5 recently. Did you hear about this?
No.
They broadcast it on Channel 5, and a lot of it was cut. And people complained, or was it the other way? Was it not cut and people complained? No, I think they cut a lot of it out. I'm sure it was broadcast. I'll have to look into this. And there were complaints because I'm sure it had been cut. And it was to do with Mickey Rooney.
Now, I can't imagine why people would be complaining about Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney's just we think of Mickey Rooney as just like a nice old, he's dead now, obviously.
Yes.
But, an old Hollywood actor.
Oh God, I never
did you not
liked
do
him.
stuff with Judy Garland?
Yes,
and all
I
that?
never
And,
liked Mickey Rooney. Andy Hardy.
That's how you think of him.
Slap him.
But in this film,
He's
Go
a
ahead.
racist
he
caricature.
has he's an incredibly racist caricature.
What I find jarring about the film, now the character he's playing is Japanese, but instead of casting a Japanese actor, because they did have, they've cast him and made him what they think a Japanese man's supposed to look
and
like.
to be fair, to give it its context, that's just what they did back then.
It was what they
You
did,
know,
but
Peter Lorre played Mr. Moto for years.
Yes.
Charlie Chan wasn't played by an Oriental, Asian actor.
So horrible though, because you're watching this film, it's like two different films.
It's terrible.
Back then, so I've got a book,
He's
and I
got
had it.
fake teeth and everything.
Oh, awful.
Awful.
I had the book shipped in from America. It's not available in the libraries, but it's a New York Times bestseller. It's called Fifth Avenue 5 a.m. by Sam Wasson, Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Dawn of the Modern Women. It's basically a guide to the making of the film. And even back then, I'm tapping the book.
Examine the book. We'll stick a link on the
Yes.
website.
Even back then, a lot of them, the director apparently, he says in this book, they knew it was just, they didn't want it.
I mean,
They did
it's
not
terrible.
want him doing that performance. They knew it was wrong. And yet they felt it was forced on them. Mickey Rooney, for years, said that people loved that character and they laughed so hard. He can't understand why anyone would take offence. But it is offensive. It's so bad to
It's
watch.
so offensive that it's not even like we can impersonate him
No.
without sounding.
Oh, God,
we
no.
would be cancelled.
No.
I
I would cancel myself. I would never, because I actually don't like it. I wish there was a cut that you could watch where he's not included, because he actually ruins the film for me.
I think the reason, and they didn't, I don't accept that they needed to do it, because that's another difference, is that he kind of replaces, although that character is in the book,
Yes.
he's a very minor character that's only really in it at the beginning when she wakes him up to
Yes,
get her in.
yes.
And he's not really in it after that.
Why
He-
did they act?
He replaces the woman, the
Yeah.
roller skating woman
Uh-huh.
that was complaining, was the Senora, whatever her name is,
Just
can't remember.
It was comedy. They're trying to make it a
they've
funny comic
compressed the
relief.
characters. They said, rather than have an extra character in it, they've compressed the two characters.
Yeah.
And
I would rather have the roller
awful,
skate girl.
it would have been better. I'm sure in the book,
Uh-huh.
in the play, the woman is in it.
Thank the
Yeah,
Lord. Thank the Lord.
no Mickey Rooney.
And it's this is the
Awful.
thing. So I say the film's a classic, which it is a classic. Breakfast at Tiffany's is a cultural institution, but that part of it stops it from being completely classic. He's just, and it's so bad. He's not even like where did he see someone Japanese like that?
No.
The way he plays.
No.
And he plays him like a creep as well. It's just so uncomfortable.
He's creepy and he's
Like, go away,
just-
get away.
Aye, it doesn't work. It jars,
And I hate
especially now.
Mickey Rooney as a result.
And look, I'm not a person who says everything from years ago should be ignored. And
You're always playing devil's advocate.
I'm always playing devil's advocate, and I object. I think that we have to.
You try and understand the
We have to
context,
take the
of course.
context of things, and I'm happy with if you're watching things on BritBox and they're saying things like, contains attitudes
Yes.
that may offend or
Yes,
things like that.
Doctor Who
literally
episodes
everything
have
has
that.
that now. Grange
Yes.
Hill has that, right?
Oh, Grange
All
Hill.
these things, yes. They all say, attitudes of the time that may offend and whatever else, right?
Usually in the kitchen making a cup of tea, so that's why I don't see these
And I
trigger warnings.
get it, and I understand, and I think that's fine. And I don't agree with censorship and such that think that if we censor things too much, you have to take them. I mean, if we took all the racist stereotypes, for example, out of a Lolo, you would have.
Is a Lolo
and that'd be it finished.
Is a Lolo still shown today?
Yes, it's on. Yeah, it's on these channels all the time.
That's the thing. See, with Breakfast at Tiffany's, it has to be removed. I can't actually watch Mickey Rooney doing
And
that.
I think if you took most of them out,
it actually changes the film anyway. It makes it better.
It's an interesting thing, and as I say, I'm fine with trigger warnings for the most part. I'm fine with advisory, content advisory. I'm not a fan of we can't show this anymore, or we can't, I'm not a fan of that. I think that let people decide for themselves.
Yes.
However, I did text you while I was watching it, and I was like, oh my, this is extreme.
I think in my old age, I'm far more sensitive now, and I just don't want to feel sort of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When you've got Mickey Rooney with whatever it is he's put in his eyes and those big teeth that he's wearing and doing the whole sort of what on earth he's doing. But when you're watching a lot of old TV, I just didn't as a child think of that back then, like how offensive it was, and now I can see it. I might not always sort of feel, because if someone's doing a Scottish accent in TV, I'm like, how dare you? So I get, but there's just, imagine being Japanese and watching that film and having that. It must be so awful. Back then, you had people protesting, so even back then, people knew it was wrong and they shouldn't have done it. So there are versions of the film that exist where you don't need to endure his, and I'm doing this in inverted commas, comedy.
Yes.
And you can just watch the film as it is. But if you're going to watch the film and you're going to read the book, it's too similar but different experiences.
It's the same basic plot, but there's a lot of stylistically, and I'm not. I don't know. I find that it's that way that the story in the book is very kind of downbeat, I suppose. And
did you enjoy the book?
I did, but nothing goes right for her.
No,
like at all.
Whereas in the film, she's impervious. Even when things go wrong, she finds a way through.
There is that thing of, is some of it her fault?
Oh, I mean, totally.
Because she married whatever his name is.
Lula May.
Why is it?
Please
Doc?
come home.
I can't remember his name. She
Your
married
brother.
him and all the rest of it, and was bringing up his kids and everything. And you say, and then she just left them and she moved on to the next thing. However, she was like a child when she got married.
Yes,
so,
that's another very dodgy thing.
And then you say to yourself, where? Based on the fact that obviously she came from, I don't know, was it the South?
Yes.
And that's where she grew up and everything else and got married and whatever. Where did she get the Audrey Hepburn accent?
Oh, I totally affected.
This is the
thing with Audrey Hepburn's version of Holly Golightly. I can imagine all of it as a performance, and it makes sense to me. And that's why the film works, and that's what makes it work for me.
There you go. I know, I did enjoy it, and as I say, I was aware of it, I'd seen bits of it, but I'd never...
I'm so glad that I have given you the impetus to go and experience it.
It was enjoyable. And I think that it's interesting to read it and watch it.
Yeah.
And see...
Which is what this podcast is all about.
Which is what it's all about.
And Channel 5
It's not about bread.
Yes.
Apparently. But yeah. So, next month...
Oh, here we go. This is the good one.
Go on. This is your favourite time of year.
Next month is the Halloween special.
Yes.
We won't go into it too much, but it will be spectacular and fun and everything that you could possibly love in my favourite time of the year. Halloween is like my birthday, my Christmas, my reason to exist. I love Halloween. So next month we're going to make it really fun. Let's make it a bumper special. We'll tell Fiona, as long as she doesn't have like a coffee morning, we should be okay.
She probably will. It'll have been like 3 weeks since
but it'll be a Halloween coffee morning, which will make it even better.
So Halloween Spooktacular next month.
So exciting.
We decide. Yeah, we have
decided
what we'll do.
We've got
we'll keep it up our sleeve for now. And yeah, so check us out online.
Yes. Please send us messages if you like some of the suggestions, things to talk about. We've got the email address, which is... that didn't happen in the book.
No, it's not that, because it's different. So the website is thatdidn'thappeninthebook.com.
Yes.
And the email is that Wasn't? Oh, that's awful. You've put me on the spot.
But listen, the email's on the website, so who
It
cares?
is. There's a contact on there. Yes, that wasn't in the book at gmail.com is the email address. Please send us your messages. I haven't checked it for ages, so
we might have
lots. And the website is that didn't happen in the book.
Yes.
That didn't happen in the book.com. It's the website. That wasn't in the book, gmail.com. Let us know what you think of all this rubbish.
And if you're part of the Agatha Christie Theatre group, please go on Channel 5's Drama Soon.
Yes, I mean, you could be with a Taunton. Lessons for up to...
Or what's the actors? What's the other actors?
Oh, I don't know.
That you and Vicky look out for.
Oh, the flat bakers.
You could be a
they're not going to be in Channel 5 dramas.
I'm going to find out about the flat bakers.
So, yes, so we will see you next month. Have a lovely rest of September and October. We will see you for Halloween. Well, we won't see you, really. We'll virtually see you.
In their nightmares.
In their nightmares, yes. See you next time. Bye!